highways there was rather severely buckled. We are getting preliminary information from Candlestick Park, but perhaps it's best to go to my colleague Mark Nelson, who is out at Candlestick. What's happening at the moment, Mark?
Well, Ted, people are milling around inside the stadium. The field is empty. None of the players are out. There are 9 towers that light the stadium. From my vantage point, I only see one row on one of the towers that appears to have any power. Outside, where all the trailers, the television trucks are, engineers are frantically trying to hook up power, auxiliary power. I can tell you that in the trailer I'm sitting in now, there is none. I'm on one of 3 working phones. When the tremor hit, and it was a pretty wild, violent tremor, it lasted for maybe 10 to 15 seconds. People started screaming and running, and there was a great deal of confusion. That's about all I can tell you right now.
All right, Mark, I'll tell you what, let's move on, and we are sort of moving in and out with different colleagues of ours as we become aware of the fact that we're able to communicate with them either by phone. I am told that we can get, I hope, both sound and picture from Rick Lozano of KABC Sports. Rick, can you hear me?
I sure can, Ted.
And you are there with San Francisco police officer?
Yes, we have Officer Dwayne Collins with us, and first I should tell you that we just established audio contact with you very recently, so I haven't been able to hear all that you've said so far, Ted. I can tell you that part of the San Francisco Bay Bridge, the Bay Bridge has collapsed in a certain section, unconfirmed reports of injury at this time. Here at Candlestick Park, as soon as the tremor struck, people started heading for the exits. It was a wild scene here for a short time. Personally, I was in a hallway, an enclosed hallway, and it was quite a scene in there, something I've never experienced before. With me, Officer Dwayne Collins of the San Francisco Police Department. Officer, what can you tell us at this time from an official standpoint?
Well, nothing at an official standpoint. Everything is still very sketchy. They're still trying to find out what happened. We do know that there was a collapse on the Bay Bridge, and we do have unconfirmed reports that some buildings have collapsed on the south side of Market Street.
What about here at Candlestick Park? Any reports of injuries or structural damage to the stadium?
No reports of injuries at this point. There's a few shaken up people, obviously. And as far as visible injury, visible damage to the stadium, we haven't found any.
Living in San Francisco in the Bay Area, you're accustomed to earth tremors. How strong would you estimate this one to have been?
This was a pretty good shaker. It was well over 5, probably 6.
Ted, I can tell you, living in Southern California and Los Angeles, that this one measured at least as strong as the Whittier quake of a couple of years ago. The epicenter has not yet been pinpointed, although it did not take very long for the main thrust of the jolt to hit here, so I would imagine that the epicenter was quite nearby. That's going to do it for now, Ted. We'll throw it back to you in New York.
Rick, thanks very much. You're both pretty good at guesstimating your Richter scale, because we now have some preliminary indications that the Richter reading was actually of 6.5. So this was a fairly hefty, indeed a very hefty earthquake. And I am told that we have some street scenes from San Francisco. If we have those ready, let's take a look at them right now. We are looking at these for the first time as you see them.
Set off, the power lines were swaying. As I said, power was cut off to this area, so was phone service. We're told now that some phone service has been restored here. You can see people were screaming. You could definitely feel the quake. I was also just told by a police officer that there are some cracks in the upper rim of Candlestick. Half-inch cracks is what he is saying in the upper rim of Candlestick. And they have also closed the overpass now on Jamestown into Candlestick.
All right, I must tell you that among the things that is happening here is that we are getting snatches of information from different parts of town, and it's like the old legend of the blind man touching the elephant. Depending on which part of the animal they are touching, they are describing different scenes. You can see, on the one hand, people there in the street scenes almost in a festive mood, but I must tell you, this was a serious earthquake. There has been serious damage. If you've been with us for the past few minutes, you will have seen that the upper span of the Bay Bridge, at least a significant segment of it, collapsed. There are reports of buildings having collapsed in San Francisco. we have seen, and as I say, if you've been with us, you have seen, some rather significant fires that apparently have been caused by the earthquake. As for injuries or possibly even fatalities, I mentioned to you earlier that there were some initial reports of some injuries at Candlestick Park, and you probably just heard the voice of a KGO reporter who was talking about some cracks in the superstructure at Candlestick Park. I must tell you, however, that I have a piece of wire copy here which is saying that a Giant spokesman said police were advising fans to remain at Candlestick Park precisely because the park is considered to be structurally sound. So just to summarize for you, and we are trying to make contact with my ABC Sports colleague Al Michaels, who was obviously in the park to report on the third game of the World Series, but who is now there to report on a rather significant news story. Let me just bring you up to speed again. Just as the game was about to begin, there was an earthquake that apparently lasted about 15 seconds and was felt as far away as 90 miles. There is a piece of videotape that was recorded, I guess about a half hour ago or so, and you can see that there is a segment of the upper span of the Bay Bridge. That is the bridge that connects Oakland, California with San Francisco. There is a segment of that bridge that has collapsed. We have reports of a number of buildings that have collapsed in and around the San Francisco area, and quite frankly, what we are doing at the moment is just trying to gather that information so that we can put it into some kind of coherent form for you. I should point out that until we do that, all I can give you is sort of the same summary that I've been giving you until now. I don't see any particular point in babbling on here and just telling you what's going on until we get some more information. So let's close it up now. A 6.5 reading on the Richter scale. You can see some video there. I gather that's live video of Candlestick Park.
And we are feeling a shock right now, and that shaking in your picture is being amplified by the tremor that has just gone through the top of the stadium, and we are live. They're taking the bases off, 8:41 Eastern, 5:41, and we just felt it out here. We're at ground level. And now 6.5 Richter is what ABC is reporting this shock to be. And it is quite obvious now, that this is not it never has been a baseball story. It is much larger than the events going on at Candlestick.
All right. What you saw is self-explanatory. The game has clearly been delayed, if not called off for the evening. We'll tell you that clearly, given the context of everything else that's happening here tonight, is one of the lesser aspects of the story, but you can see the crack in the sidewalk there. Again, a rather massive earthquake, 6.5 on the Richter scale, fires in San Francisco, a segment of the Bay Bridge down, the game delayed, deferred, possibly even canceled, and we will give you more information as soon as it becomes available to us and we can put it into some sort of coherent form. I'm Ted Koppel in Washington. We'll be back a little bit later.